We're studying the fruit of the Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit is in Galatians 5:22. And we've done love, we've done joy, we've done peace, and we're doing patience. A couple translations, as we just saw, uses forbearance. And I want to give you some extra words of what it means in the original. So when we talk about patience, it obviously is using endurance. I'm going to save this one for last because I think it's the most interesting one. Steadfastness, perseverance, forbearance, long-suffering, slowness in avenging wrongs. But one of them is constancy. So consistency has something to do with it, which I found very, very interesting. And we're going to be bouncing back and forth between some of those explanations. But we're going to go to Hebrews 6. I'm going to start at 9, and we're going to work our way through. Verse 12 is where we're going to try to get to, because it talks about, by patient endurance, even when suffering, you are inheriting the promises. So you use the example. We try to use prayer as an example a lot of times. Use the example in prayer. You're praying for something, and you're wondering why it isn't happening. What's your attitude when it doesn't happen?
Hurry up.
Hurry up.
Get anxious.
You get anxious. You wonder why. And then that's probably natural, but some people flip to the other side of the coin and get a little more off-centered, they're not God-centered at all. And they're like, God must not love me, God doesn't like me, this, that, and the other, and they go really astray in that. And then you have the other side where patience is somewhere between what you all stated, hurry up, and God's got it under control. I was thinking about it, and you look at the list of the fruit of the Spirit, and last week I said something that I've been resonating with peace. Peace is having joy and love in a situation. But think about having patience. I am patiently awaiting with anticipation that it's going to happen, and I have peace because of it. I have joy because of it, and I know that God loves me, and His love is going to take care of it. So they're building on each other. So if we don't have any of the other three, we're not going to be very patient. Because if we don't know the love of God and understand the love of God, we're going to get very impatient. God, do it now. I want fast food. Our society wants this fast food mentality. I prayed it should be done. We want the first couple chapters of Daniel experience. I prayed, and before I got done praying, and it was answered. We don't like the patient part where Daniel starts going, hey, Lord, it's been 21 days. You answered that prayer right away. How come you ain't answered this one right away? And we find out that there was warfare happening in the spirit realm that kept that answer from getting to him. So we get very impatient. But I love that endurance. Sometimes you just got to go through stuff. And there's not a right or wrong. You just go through.
I think sometimes the devil causes you to get more anxiety than you really need.
Yeah.
Already have.
Yeah, because the Bible tells us not to be anxious or worry about anything.
Right.
Well, I've got to have patience to do that. Because as human, that's our first reaction is, oh, woe is me, now what? Oh, no. And it's like, okay, I trust you, Lord. I don't have happiness in that situation, but I can have joy. The situation might not seem very peaceful, but I can have peace. It may not seem very loving from a God Father, but the Father knows that I can make it through. Or the Father knows what's best. I was watching a movie, a new movie by Kevin Sorbo, the Hercules guy. And he was a diehard atheist, and his son died, and that kind of pushed him over the edge. Had cancer or something. And that pushed him over the edge, so he became a diehard atheist. And in the movie, he was an author of explaining that God is of no use today and there is no God, yada, yada, yada. And he had this huge following and he was making tons of money by doing it. But he got in a car accident and died and went to the pathway to heaven is the only way I can describe it because it wasn't heaven. I think they may even called it heaven, but it wasn't heaven. It was like the pathway. He met his son and the way he described it says, it was so peaceful and loving and I knew my son was at peace. And he just, I said, I can't explain it. So at the next debate, because he done squashed a Christian in a debate, the next debate he passes out because they started asking him questions. He said, now that you clinically had died for 4 minutes and came back from, quote, the dead, did you notice anything? Well, he didn't want to answer it because that would ruin his total career. And his publicists and all that didn't want him to answer it because their money ticket would be gone.
Right.
And he divorced his wife, and he had 2 kids, so he had 3 kids, the one passed away. And it was just a sad movie because he ends up getting saved, and he shares his story, so his publicist fires him, and the one lady gets reignited back with her faith and stayed with him. And they did a cool project. But at the end, his wife died from the same disease that his kid did after they got remarried. And they were only, I don't know if it was a year or so. And I was like, man, that's terrible. And I was like, how is he going to handle it? And he handled it well. He kept his faith. But talk about patience.
Doesn't you endure patience by God is saying that you got to go through pain and suffering and trouble